Okay. I made that video and I felt like when I watched it, it reminded me of the Spice Girls. I'm really apologetic if that's the case. And if you're not a fan, you should be a fan. I want to introduce two people. I'll share a bit about their background. First up is Jada Landrum. Jada is a senior at NC State. She's majoring in marketing. She is very employable if you're out there looking for someone who's creative, who's smart, who's young and willing and optimistic about the world. And she is an intern, a volunteer intern with Raleigh Sister Cities, and helps us do a lot of different things, namely tonight helping Mary Clare explain how she started the Sister City. Mary Clare is the director of institutional relations for Alamo Solutions, and that's a Madrid-based consulting firm. So she travels back and forth across the pond quite a bit and just got back from Spain. By night, she is our ambassador for Gibraltar, and that is our newest sister city. So we've invited both of them here to share a bit of their story. And I'm going to give the Zoom to both of you to tell us, how did you start a sister city, Mary Clare?
Well, thank you, Cody. So, Keneal, also, if you have any questions specifically after this, we can talk because I'm guessing I am the newest member who went through this process. But Jada, why don't you start off, and then we can go from there.
Okay, so about the interview, or just a little bit about myself?
Yeah, why don't you just talk about why you joined the organization, and you can start asking questions.
Okay.
We'll sort of do it as a question answer thing first.
Okay. So hi everyone. I'm a singer, and I was looking for an opportunity to really get involved with marketing. It's been kind of difficult trying to be an intern doing marketing. So I saw the need for Raleigh Sister Cities, that they were looking for interns, and I was like, well, here's what I can do. Here are my services. And that's how I got involved. I've pretty much always been involved with a sister city in any way, shape, or form. And I remember being a kid and like painting murals for sister cities in the city that I came from. So that's why I loved getting involved. And that's been my journey. Right. So, very clear. Getting into it, I would like to know, why do you like sister cities and how did you become aware of it?
Okay, so same thing as you, Jada, is that I was a kid and we were involved. Same thing. There was somebody in school, a teacher or someone I think associated actually with Germany, with Rostock. And so we in high school were involved with some of the activities. And then of course, International Festival. I know there were some connections with Raleigh there, but I like the global aspect of it, and like living in Raleigh and having the global aspect of it. So when this opportunity came across with my work in Gibraltar, so I worked, I guess, in the past with the American Chamber of Commerce in Gibraltar, who were interested in building sort of commercial connections with the US, and saw sister cities as an opportunity. And I also, knowing Raleigh well, and then knowing how robust the sister cities program is in Raleigh, I was like, hey, I can help bring this together. So the process started for me via establishing the relationship first with Gibraltar. And that started about 2019, and they expressed interest in 2019. And so they had gone to the Sister Cities International Conference that year, and had met with a few delegates and had conversations with cities, states that, or excuse me, with towns or cities that had similar historical backgrounds, had similar geographic backgrounds, and had similar educational backgrounds. And so we sort of chose, while moving forward with Raleigh, we identified education as something that we wanted to focus on. They also really wanted to focus on commercial partnerships and relationships. And then they also wanted to pursue sort of sustainability culture. So those were the four main things that we identified. And so I started, the first step I took was I identified, I reached out to the person, Mr. Dickie Thompson at the time, who was my city council person who was representing the sister cities in Raleigh. And then also reached out to a common friend, or the member of the VP of new partnerships was Marjorie Saltzman, who has since retired, but we had a friend in common. And so I met with her and just got to know the process and went through the steps that were established by Raleigh Sister Cities. And it was a 5 to 6 step process. one of which was putting together a committee both here and both in Gibraltar, one of which was filling out the form, the official form of why and what and how and who. Another was a proposal sort of outlining the different details of the relationship. So not just the people involved, but okay, what are the objectives? So one of the first things that we did, and what are some things that we can do now to build a relationship, while we're getting this process approved. And so we focused on education as a starter. And that's when we brought the University of Gibraltar they were traveling to the United States for a visit, and we had them stop in Raleigh, and they met with individuals at NC State and met with individuals at Centennial campus. And so that was sort of the first step. And then we started connecting. We had a classroom in Gibraltar connect to the classroom in Raleigh, and it was an elementary school classroom that my friend did. And this was pre-pandemic, so it was virtual, virtual classroom before virtual classrooms were popular. And I would like to, say that. And but they just sort of interviewed each other and talked about their days. And so the idea was just get the relationship as it was going through the process through the Raleigh Sister Cities board and the Raleigh Sister, and through, even through the process with City Council, all the formalities, we were trying to establish at the same time, low-hanging fruit opportunities of ways to connect people. So on the other side, it took this was Gibraltar's first sister city. So on Gibraltar's side, we had to go through the whole thing from the beginning. So I helped with, I went through that process with them because Raleigh being their first one, they wanted to align everything with Raleigh. So part of that was making the case for a sister city, making the case economically. So what are the economic benefits? And so we put together, the Gibraltar person and I put together a paper doing research on the economic benefits of it so that their government would support it. We helped them put together the committee, helped them put together their ideas. Again, matching Gibraltar and Raleigh's similarities and defining their goals, which helped us determine what the Gibraltar-Raleigh relationship would be. So, them from the bottom up, they parallel a lot of Raleigh's protocol, right? So they now have official committee, they now have an official in government who supports them 100%. They now are, have funding, but we were there first. And so that took from start to finish. We started the conversation in July of 2019, and then we officially signed. A lot of this was delayed because of the pandemic, but we officially signed with city government on when was it, Cody? December of 2021. So it took about a year and a half to get everything from front to end, from the beginning to end. And the beginning being just having a conversation with someone at Sister Cities, identifying a committee and a group of individuals who would be interested in supporting it. Not just me, but it was local members of the community who are interested in the location, interested in the history, members of the community interested in similar commercial activities. There were a few, we got on board, the members of the committee were diverse in order to represent the different things that Gibraltar was interested in identifying here. So all that is to answer the question of, I like it because it allows you to build bridges and things that you're interested in, and meet new people and identify, kind of bring home things that or in my case was able to bring home things that I know, and then also sell a place, not sell, but you know what I mean? Be a proponent for a place that I loved, right? Because not only did I have to make the case for Gibraltar here, but I had to help make the case for Raleigh there, and why Raleigh should be their first sister city.
Oh, nice. And so what advice would you give to someone who's looking to start a sister city?
Find your reason, right? That's the easiest thing. So why, I would say the easiest ones you can think about would be like a port town, right? So a city like Wilmington partnering with a city, I don't know, another port city like Barcelona, right? So a place that has a major port, has a beach. Geography is always the easiest thing to connect with. We chose Gibraltar. What we did The reasons we used were economic growth centers. Both have huge economic growth in terms of specific sectors. So startup, fintech, tech, clean tech. So a lot of it's around the tech cluster. And then we also used the government being the government home, right? So Gibraltar, even though it's a nation and a town, which is strange, it is still a town, right? It's still a city. They have a mayor, but they also have, the way Raleigh though has the governor and the legislature and the mayor and a city council. Gibraltar has a chief minister and a parliament, but also a little city council and a mayor. So we use this idea of it being government centered, centered in cities, right? So that's my biggest advice is find the reason, find your connection.
Okay. And the last question that I have for you is looking back at your journey on doing the Gibraltar sister city, what was the easy part of your journey and what was the hardest part about getting Gibraltar to be a sister city?
The easiest part was the Raleigh side, actually, meaning that, it was easy in the sense that we had a group of people in Raleigh who were sustained, what's the word? Were rooted, right? People who'd already sort of been doing this for a while, people who could answer my questions, people who knew what they were doing, and people who could guide us, right? So, if I had a question, there is a charter, and there are rules and there are steps, and I could very easily reference those. People were very friendly. Cody and I have become friends through this process. I've become very familiar. I know Linda well, I know Katie well. It's just people have slowly become, because people are also friendly and available and have a similar mindset. That's been the easiest part, is the Raleigh part. Meaning just relationships. People are kind, people are willing to speak, people are willing to listen, even if they don't know what it is, they're interested. The harder part was probably, it wasn't, I would say the pandemic, I feel like, is an easy cop out because it makes it hard, but it's been hard getting people to do things that they're unfamiliar with. So that's kind of the side of our international partner, it's not them, but it's getting people, having the conversation about what Sister Cities is. Because if you introduce someone, if you're approaching someone you don't know, right? Because a lot of this is building out relationships and partnerships with new people. There are plenty of people but a lot of it is building out partnerships with people you don't know. And if you reach out to them and say you're from Sister Cities and they have no idea what it is, it kind of sounds like it sounds like a scam or something. I don't know if that's the right word, but it is explaining that you're coming in a reason of goodwill. You're not coming asking for, asking people to give you business or give you certain things. You're trying to build that partnership and relationship on the pure and simple fact that you are from an organization whose sole purpose is to build mutual understanding and respect, and explaining that so people don't, because it does. I think nowadays people are not as trustworthy as they used to be. So I think people were a little standoffish at first if they'd never heard of it or didn't know what it was, or even who I was. And so that's why it was easier here, in a sense, because there was a network of Sister Cities people here that you can sort of fall back on and rely on. And they can make introductions and that sort of thing.
Okay, well, thank you so much for answering all of my questions. And I'm going to leave time for us to answer any questions that anyone may have. Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, Dana.
Is this the time for questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm sure I've got 100, and I know you're going to answer them all on Thursday too, when you all come. But and I'm assuming that lots of people will have questions. But it sounds like okay. First of all, how many cities is Raleigh involved with? It sounds like you've added Gibraltar, and of course I know France, and I know China. I don't know the names of the towns exactly, but I know Compiègne. That's the one that I know the best. Yeah. And are you still Kingston on Hull?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the first one for sure.
Because that's the only one that I've been to, and it was on a Goodwill back when the Christmas Carol was taken there way back when.
Oh,
So
amazing.
yeah, that was wonderful. But okay. And what other cities then is Raleigh involved with?
Yeah, so Raleigh has a lot of international relationships, especially with the city of Raleigh officially. Sister cities is just one of the ways that citizens can get involved. One of our best friends is International Focus, and they have a lot of relationships across the world. Every month, they pick a different country to engage with and provide events for and programming for. And even the government of Raleigh has relationships as well. Sister Cities is just an international framework that was started by Eisenhower in '56. Within Sister Cities, we have a few different relationships: Compiègne, Hull, Gibraltar, Rostock, which is on the northern coast of Germany, and Nairobi. Those are kind of those are the 5 active ones as well. And we've recently had inquiries from 3 different cities as well, meaning local partners with foreign partners. And we are in process right now with a group from Colombia, South America, from Mexico, and then also what was our third? Lebanon. So it's possible that we could get some new sister cities. It's possible that we keep the same sister cities, but it's always a number that's in flux over time. And I think even before I started recording this video, I was telling you there were former sister cities in Tanzania and in Russia, and we're still trying to re-engage with our Chinese partners as well.
And so in our case, we have a 10-year partnership that is signed and then will automatically renew unless someone says no, right? So we signed a partnership with Gibraltar that will assess every year or 2 years and work on the relationship. And then, but basically at the end of 10 years, if no one says no, then we keep, and then it automatically renews for another 10 years.
Okay. So how much money is involved?
On our side, I know there's a startup cost of, I think a committee is $450. Is that right?
I think that might have been before my time, but it's as much. I think we're a fairly frugal organization. What I can say is that the city of Raleigh graciously pays our annual fee for Sister Cities International, and that's based on population size. So there are different, it's almost like a sliding scale of how much it costs to be within the program of Sister Cities International and get their support, get their resources, get their blessing to do this. I think Raleigh's a mid-size, it's just over $1,000 every year. And then I think bigger programs like a Chicago, Atlanta, even Los Angeles pay quite more for that. And it's all based on your population. So Camille, if you're based in Wake Forest, I'm sure it would be a lot less than Raleigh. But I wouldn't be familiar with how much, where you would land on the scale. And then every
you're
sister city
not saying
program is
1,000
different.
per each one of your countries.
No. It's just an
okay.
annual fee for being involved in the program.
Okay.
But I think what I was saying was, every sister city program is set up differently, has different financials. Some are completely tied into their city governments. Some are completely separate from their city governments. It's typically either a nonprofit organization, a city department, or involved with the Chamber of Commerce as well, some type of economic development arm.
Okay. And then how much you spend, depends completely on what you need, right? So we, as Cody mentioned, I would say, what is it? It's like we have spent, our cost this year was $200 for random event stuff and random things, and that came from donations. We had one fundraiser that gave us basically that $200, and that was fine, and that covered it. So I think an internal cost for different programs per city, I know it would probably range from city to city and events, but in general, the cost is kind of what you determine and what you guys are willing to, put into it.
Yeah.
And Cody, we've talked about this in the past, but it's in some cities even have like a dedicated staff person who is 100% paid by one of those entities, by Raleigh Sister City, by the city council, by the Chamber of Commerce, by by government, or fundraised by sister cities themselves. So it just depends, that is something that
Yeah, I'm fascinated with Gibraltar. I think that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Well, let me show you something about Gibraltar too. I think when Mary Claire was talking, she was rekindling my stats about Gibraltar. And I don't know if anyone knows this, but Gibraltar is the third smallest country in the world. And so this is an overlay of how big Gibraltar is. It's only 6 square kilometers, which I think is about almost just under 2.5 square miles. So it's only a population of 33,000, about 33,000.
Right.
So we couldn't get much smaller sister city or even sister country.
Right.
But when you think about how many people are there and how big it is, it's almost the size of downtown Raleigh. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can get a better picture.
Wow.
But I think it's quite special that, it's certainly hard to start a sister city with anyone, but I don't think Mary Claire made it any easier because there's only 33,000 people in this place, where that's about the size of our, a single zip code in Raleigh.
And is that Spanish speaking?
They speak English and Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that answers one of my questions, which I think I asked about whether you want to try to choose a city that's about the same size as your city, but obviously
You can.
I was going to say you could have come to Wake Forest and we might have been about matched up.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And, Gibraltar's got this funky quality where it's a city and a territory all itself. So I think size is one of the qualifications that you would need to set up. We actually don't have a standard within Raleigh. I think that was someone was on our board was asking the other day, how do we pick a new sister city? And what qualifies a new sister city? I would say it's up to you, how you want to determine it, how you want to say what's most important to us. I think the main thing is there's people behind it that support it. That's the biggest qualifier is who's actually going to lead it and do it. It can't just be an idea out of thin air. It's actually got to come into practice and have a plan behind it. So I would say that's the main qualifier is, are they willing, and are they willing to do things for it? Yeah. Well, hey, we are right at 5:30. I'm going to share some info.
Yeah, I was the only one asking questions. I'm sorry, maybe Linda or Judy or Katie or Gretchen have questions, and I didn't mean to just hog the whatever.
Oh, Camille, they were great. Thank you for being active.
Yeah,
and I think I'm going to give some information here. You see it. If you have anything to follow up, please email Mary Claire or Jada or myself. They would love to help you figure this out and help you sort out if there's something you could start with sister cities. I will give Mary Claire and Jada the last word. Anything else that you would like to say about how to start a sister city or best advice about how to start a sister city?
Yeah, I think it's just mostly finding your team and finding your purpose. And I think actually it was Marjorie Saltzman who said it to me when we started. She said, your sister city is only as good as your team. And so it lives based on your team members and it dies based on your team members, meaning, is it sustainable? And do you have people who are active and willing to participate and to drive the process?
Yeah. Jada, maybe this is a better question for you. If you could start a sister city with anywhere in the world, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a really good question, actually. Really good question. Because when I think about the city that I came from, right, it was like really small. So it would have to be a country, well, not a country. Well, it could be a country. Could be a Gibraltar type of situation. But it would be with a city that is relatively small, but still has quite a sizable population.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. If that makes any sense. Theoretically, though, I think a sister city that I would like to see would be somewhere like very far within like Polynesia or somewhere. So somewhere like Samoa or like Tonga. Because it's so far away from everything.
Yeah, I think you just want a good tropical vacation out of this.
Yeah.
I see your plan. Yeah. Well, hey, thanks to you both, and thanks to everyone for joining in. I'm going to stay true to our time, so just after 5:30. I'll post this online, and again, if you have any questions, reach out to us. Our website's there too, and we look forward to talking more. Best wishes on going forward with Sister Cities.
Thank you so much. Very helpful.
Bye.
Bye.